The North Pacific Ocean, March the 8th, 1968, roughly 750 miles northwest of the Hawaiian island of Oahu, beneath a gray, indifferent swell. A diesel-electric Soviet submarine designated K-129 was making a routine patrol toward its assigned station, carrying a crew of 98 men and a payload of nuclear-armed ballistic missiles under the command of Captain Vladimir Kobzar, a disciplined officer of the Soviet Pacific Fleet who had made this crossing many times before. Somewhere along that silent transit, without warning, without a distress signal, without a single flare fired into the dark, K-129 stopped reporting. The Soviet Navy searched the surface for weeks, scanning empty water with ships and aircraft, and found nothing, no wreckage, no oil slick, no survivors, only the terrible certainty that 98 men had vanished somewhere beneath 16,000 feet of Pacific water, carrying state secrets and nuclear warheads down into a darkness so total that sunlight had never once touched it. What the Soviet Union could not find, the United States had already heard. A classified American underwater listening network known as SOSUS, built to track the acoustic signatures of Soviet vessels, had recorded a distinct anomaly at the precise coordinates and moment the submarine disappeared, and from that single acoustic trace, American intelligence analysts began quietly reconstructing a location the Soviets themselves did not have. In the months that followed, the United States Navy submarine, USS Halibut, refitted for deep-sea reconnaissance, was sent to that exact patch of ocean, towing camera sleds through crushing pressure and permanent night. And after a patient, methodical search, it found K-129 resting broken on the seafloor, nearly 3 miles down, largely intact, undiscovered by the nation that had lost it. What followed was not a rescue. It was an idea so audacious that when it was first proposed inside the Central Intelligence Agency, even seasoned officers questioned whether it could be attempted at all to physically lift an entire Soviet ballistic missile submarine whole from the deepest part of the ocean floor, without the Soviet Union ever knowing it had happened. Under President Richard Nixon, and formally authorized during the tenure of Director of Central Intelligence William Colby, this operation was given a code name that would remain classified for decades: Project Azorian. To build a vessel capable of lowering a mechanical claw nearly 3 miles down, closing it around a 5,000-ton submarine, and hauling it back to the surface undetected, the CIA required an engineering feat with no precedent, and an explanation the world would actually believe. That explanation came in the form of Howard Hughes, the reclusive American industrialist whose name alone could justify almost any strange and expensive ambition without inviting real scrutiny. A cover story was constructed and fed to the public and the press. Hughes, it was said, intended to mine manganese nodules from the ocean floor, a genuine but commercially unremarkable pursuit, and to do it, a singular ship was built, the Hughes Glomar Explorer, an enormous, purpose-built vessel with a moon pool concealed beneath its hull, engineered in secret by Global Marine and Lockheed to lower a massive capture vehicle, quietly named Clementine, down into the abyss. In the summer of 1974, the Glomar Explorer sailed to the exact coordinates the Halibut had once mapped, and for weeks it held position over open ocean, its true purpose hidden from nearly everyone aboard, as the capture vehicle was lowered through miles of crushing black water toward the wreck of K-129. The claw closed around the submarine's hull, and slowly, impossibly, the lift began, hauling a piece of Soviet military history toward the surface 1 meter at a time, while above deck, sailors were told only that they were retrieving mineral samples from the seabed, and while beneath the waves, key sections of the ship's structural claw began to strain under a weight it had never fully been tested to bear. Partway through the ascent, catastrophe struck in silence. Sections of the submarine's fractured hull broke away under the stress, tumbling back down into the darkness, taking with them the majority of K-129 and, by most accounts, the remains of many of her crew, lost a second time to the same ocean that had first claimed them. Only a forward portion of the submarine reached the surface, drawn up into the sealed moon pool of the Glomar Explorer, out of sight of any passing vessel or satellite. And what the Americans recovered inside it, fragments of the vessel, classified equipment, cryptographic material, and the remains of several Soviet sailors, was quietly examined, documented, and in a moment reported with solemn detail years later, the recovered Soviet dead were given a formal military burial at sea, conducted with full honors and filmed on camera. A silent tribute paid in secrecy by the very nation that had taken them from the ocean floor without asking. For a time, it seemed Project Azorian would remain forever buried beneath its cover story, until the operation's secrecy began to unravel from an unrelated crime. In June of 1974, burglars broke into the Los Angeles offices of the Hughes Summa Corporation, and among the documents stolen were files referencing the Glomar Explorer's true classified purpose, setting off a chain of leaks that investigative journalists began to chase. Reporters, including Jack Anderson and later Seymour Hersh, pieced together fragments of the story, and though the CIA pressured news outlets to hold back full details, citing the safety of any Soviet sailors who might still be alive, portions of the truth reached the public in early 1975, forcing the agency into an unprecedented position, unable to confirm the operation without compromising future intelligence work, and unwilling to deny it outright and risk a documented lie. Out of that impossible position came a now famous phrase, born from a CIA spokesperson's carefully worded non-answer to press inquiries, a response that would neither confirm nor deny the existence of the requested information, a formulation so distinct that it entered the American legal and political lexicon permanently under the name the Glomar response, still used today by government agencies seeking to protect classified operations without lying outright. What the United States ultimately recovered from the wreck of K-129 has never been fully disclosed to this day, and the Soviet Union, even after the operation became public knowledge, never officially acknowledged the loss, the recovery, or the burial of its own sailors, leaving Project Azorian suspended in a strange historical space between confirmed fact and permanent classification, a Cold War operation so vast in scale and so absolute in its secrecy that even now, more than half a century later, no government has ever released the complete truth of what was truly lifted from the bottom of the Pacific Ocean and what was allowed, deliberately, to fall back into the dark.